September 12th, 2025. 48 hours after her husband was shot dead on a college campus. Erika Kirk stands at a podium, tears streaming down her face, and delivers 6 words that would echo across the conservative movement for months to come. "You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife." The cameras captured every moment, the grief, the fury, the promise. But there was something the cameras didn't fully capture that night. Something beneath the surface that would reshape American conservative politics in ways no one quite predicted. Within 8 days, Erika Kirk would be named CEO of one of the most influential youth organizations in America. Within 7 weeks, she'd be on stage with the Vice President of the United States, rallying 10,000 students at the University of Mississippi. And within 2 months, she'd be navigating a position of power that most political operatives spend decades trying to reach. This is the story of how a widow became a power player, how grief became a mandate, and how a relationship between a sitting vice president and the wife of his assassinated friend became one of the most scrutinized alliances in modern conservative politics. If you want to understand who will shape the next decade of the American right, you can't look away from what happened after September 10th, 2025. This is the story of Erika Kirk, JD Vance, and the mechanics of power in the post-Trump era. Before we dive deeper, let me be clear about what this video is and what it isn't. We're going to talk about a relationship, but not the kind you might have heard whispered about on social media. The relationship we're examining is political, professional, and public. It's the alliance between a newly minted CEO of a conservative youth empire and the Vice President of the United States. It's about shared stages, mutual endorsements, institutional support, and the optics of power. What it's not about is speculation. We're not trafficking in rumors. We're not reading tea leaves from hugs caught on camera. We're going to separate what is documented and verifiable from what exists only in the fever swamps of anonymous posts and blind items. Because here's the thing, the real story is dramatic enough, the documented facts are compelling enough, and the stakes for American politics are high enough that we don't need to invent anything. So let's start where every great story starts, with the person at the center of it all. Erika Lane Francevay was born on November 20th, 1988 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Raised by her mother after her parents' divorce, she grew up Catholic, ambitious, and driven. At Regis University in Denver, she played NCAA Division II basketball for 1 year before transferring to Arizona State University. There, she earned dual degrees in political science and international relations. But it wasn't just academics that defined her early life. In 2012, the same year she graduated from ASU, Erika won the Miss Arizona USA pageant. She was 23 years old, polished, articulate, and already thinking about how to use her platform for something beyond the crown. She later pursued a Juris Master degree in American Legal Studies from Liberty University, completing it in 2017. By then, she'd already launched her first entrepreneurial venture, Bible in 365, a ministry program challenging participants to read the Bible in 1 year. In 2018, she founded Proclaim Streetwear, a faith-based clothing company emphasizing American manufacturing with the tagline, "Honoring God means honoring the work of honest hands." She had a devotional podcast. She worked as a real estate agent with the Corcoran Group in New York City. She was, by any measure, building a career. But in 2018, everything changed when she met Charlie Kirk. It was supposed to be a job interview. They sat in Bill's, a burger joint in New York City, and what started as a professional conversation turned into something else entirely. They talked theology, philosophy, politics. And at the end, Charlie looked at her and said, "I'm going to date you." They were engaged in 2020, married in 2021, and by 2025, they had 2 young children, a daughter born in August 2022 and a son born in May 2024. But here's where the narrative gets complicated, because Erika Kirk, in public speeches and on her podcast, repeatedly told young women that they should prioritize family over career, that they should submit to their husbands. That boss babe culture was toxic and antithetical to the gospel. At the Young Women's Leadership Summit in June 2025, just months before Charlie's death, she told the crowd, "When I met Charlie, that was it. I could care less about the career." Yet at the same time, she was running multiple businesses, hosting a podcast, speaking at major conservative events, building her own brand. It's a tension that critics point to as hypocrisy. Supporters see it as proof that she can walk the walk. Either way, it's a pattern that would define her leadership style after Charlie's assassination. So far, we've seen who Erika Kirk was before tragedy struck. Next, we need to understand the event that changed everything. The assassination that turned a political spouse into a symbol. September 10, 2025. Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. It was supposed to be the first stop of the fall 2025 season for Turning Point USA's American Comeback Tour. Charlie Kirk was 31 years old. He'd co-founded TPUSA at age 18 in 2012, turning it into a conservative juggernaut with 3,500 campus chapters, millions in funding, and a podcast that regularly topped the Spotify and Apple charts. He'd helped mobilize young voters for Donald Trump in 2024. He was a personal friend of Vice President JD Vance and was widely credited with helping Vance secure the VP slot on Trump's ticket. He was doing what he did best, engaging with an audience, taking questions, challenging students to prove me wrong. And then, at approximately 142 yards away, a sniper on a rooftop fired a single shot. Charlie Kirk was hit in the neck. He died within minutes. The next day, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson surrendered himself to the local sheriff's office in Washington, Utah, more than 3 hours from the scene. He was charged with aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and felony discharge of a firearm. Prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty, calling the attack politically motivated. Authorities found bullet casings with inscriptions. One read, "Hey, fascist catch," followed by arrow symbols. Another read, "Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao," which could reference an Italian anti-fascist song or an online gaming meme. Robinson's partner was transgender. Some conservative voices immediately speculated that Kirk's anti-transgender rhetoric had motivated the attack. Others pointed to Robinson's family telling investigators that he'd become more political in recent years and had mentioned disliking Kirk's viewpoints at a recent family dinner. Utah Governor Spencer Cox called it unequivocally a political assassination. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed DNA evidence linking Robinson to the scene. Text messages showed Robinson telling someone he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and that he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. But here's what the assassination did beyond taking a life. It created a martyr. And in American politics, martyrs are powerful currency. Within hours, vigils were being organized across the country, mostly by Turning Point chapters, but not exclusively. Makeshift memorials appeared at TPUSA's Phoenix headquarters. Charlie Kirk's face was projected onto video boards at State Farm Stadium before an Arizona Cardinals game. President Trump called it a heinous assassination and announced he would posthumously award Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom. First Lady Melania Trump wrote that Charlie's children will be raised with stories instead of memories. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., whose father and uncle were both assassinated, wrote, "Once again, a bullet has silenced the most eloquent truth-teller of an era." The movement had its martyr. The question was, who would carry the torch? Before we continue, I need to ask you something. If you've made it this far, you're clearly interested in understanding how power really works in modern American politics. Not the sanitized version, not the gossip, the actual mechanics of influence succession, and institutional control. This kind of careful, source-grounded analysis is rare. Most coverage either lionizes or demonizes. We're trying to do something different here. Show you the receipts and let you draw your own conclusions. If that matters to you, consider subscribing. Hit the like button, leave a comment telling me what you think so far. Because channels that do this kind of work only survive if viewers like you actually engage. All right? Let's talk about what happened in the 8 days after the assassination, September 12, 2025, 2 days after Charlie's death. Erika Kirk delivered her first public remarks. She stood at a podium, visibly shaken, tears streaming, but her voice steady. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. She vowed to continue the fall campus tour, to keep AmericaFest, TPUSA's annual conference, on schedule, to continue Charlie's radio show and podcast. If you thought my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. Within 48 hours of that speech, Turning Point USA received over 32,000 inquiries from students wanting to start new chapters or join existing ones. To put that in perspective, TPUSA had 900 official college chapters and 1,200 high school chapters at the time. That's more than 30 times their total chapter count in requests. By midweek, it was up to 54,000 inquiries, then 62,000. On September 13th, TPUSA announced plans for Charlie's memorial service. It would be held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, on September 21st, the same venue that hosts the Super Bowl. And on September 18th, just 8 days after the assassination, Turning Point USA's board made it official. Erika Kirk was unanimously elected CEO and chair of the board. The announcement on X read, "In prior discussions, Charlie expressed to multiple executives that this is what he wanted in the event of his death." Charlie prepared all of us for a moment like this one. He worked tirelessly to ensure Turning Point USA was built to survive even the greatest tests. Tyler Boyer, TPUSA's chief operating officer, wrote, "This was what Charlie hoped for and wanted, and he said so numerous times. Erika is one with Charlie, and Charlie is one with Erika." On September 13th, Erika had convened a Zoom call with all 1,500 Turning Point employees. Alex Clark, host of one of TPUSA's most popular podcasts, was on that call. She later described it to CNN. Erika assured everyone they wouldn't lose their jobs, that everything is stable and safe, that they would carry on Charlie's mission exactly as he had planned. Clark said Erika wanted to 10 times the organization. Another TPUSA insider told Fox News, "I think that's kind of a poetic justice that will be done to the left, because obviously they were excited that they took out Charlie, and they thought that everything would die with him. And that's just clearly not even close to the reality of the situation. The succession was swift. It was unanimous. And according to those inside the organization, it was exactly what Charlie Kirk had wanted. So far, we've seen the assassination, the grief, and the succession. But there's a key player we haven't fully introduced yet. The man who would become Erika Kirk's most visible political ally, Vice President JD Vance. By 2025, JD Vance is Vice President of the United States. He's 41 years old, author of Hillbilly Elegy, former venture capitalist turned politician. He won his Ohio Senate seat in 2022 and was chosen by Donald Trump as his running mate in 2024. And Charlie Kirk played a crucial role in that selection. Multiple sources, including Vance himself, have confirmed that Charlie Kirk was one of the key voices advocating for Vance to get the VP slot. They were close friends. Vance was a frequent guest on Charlie's podcast. They shared a vision for a populist, Christian-infused conservatism that could mobilize young voters. When Charlie was assassinated, Vance didn't just release a statement. He acted. September 11th, 2025, the day after the assassination. Air Force Two departed Salt Lake City, carrying Charlie Kirk's flag-draped casket. Accompanying it, Vice President JD Vance, Second Lady Usha Vance, and Charlie's widow, Erika Kirk. Footage shows Vance walking alongside the casket on the tarmac. Solemn, deliberate. This wasn't just a political gesture. Vance was honoring a friend. Later that week, Vance guest-hosted The Charlie Kirk Show. In his opening remarks, he called Charlie a dear friend and said, "I owe so much to Charlie Kirk." He talked about Charlie's vision, his courage, his ability to inspire young people to engage in politics. And then he said something that would become a recurring theme. "We can thank God that most Democrats don't share these attitudes, and I do, while acknowledging that something has gone very wrong with a lunatic fringe, a minority, but a growing and powerful minority on the far left." It was Vance's first salvo in framing Charlie's assassination as part of a broader left-wing threat to conservative voices. September 21st, 2025, State Farm Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. This is where the relationship between Erika Kirk and JD Vance became impossible to ignore. Over 90,000 people attended Charlie Kirk's memorial service. Police said it was receiving Super Bowl-level security. Overflow crowds were sent to Desert Diamond Arena, which holds another 20,000. The speaker list read like a who's who of the Trump administration and conservative movement: President Donald Trump, Vice President JD Vance Elon Musk, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, RFK Jr., Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, Jr. Stephen Miller, Christian worship singers Chris Tomlin, Brandon Lake, Phil Wickham, Carrie Job, and Cody Carnes performed. It wasn't just a memorial. It was a political rally, a Christian revival, a show of force. When Erika Kirk took the stage, fireworks went off. 2 giant electronic screens displayed her image. U.S. flags flanked both sides. She spoke about her children, about Charlie's legacy. And then she did something unexpected. She forgave Tyler Robinson, the man accused of murdering her husband. "I forgive him," she said. It was a moment of grace that earned her standing ovations. JD Vance spoke earlier in the evening. His speech was less about forgiveness and more about martyrdom. "Charlie became a martyr for the Christian faith," Vance told the crowd. "His power will only grow." He talked about Charlie's passion for history, for ideas, for America's future. He said, "Charlie didn't just tell the truth. He lived it. In this, he showed all of us how to carry on after his death." Then came President Trump's speech. It was the most partisan moment of the night. Trump blamed the left and the Democratic Party for creating the climate that led to Charlie's assassination. He said, "The violence largely comes from the left." And then he said something that drew gasps. Charlie did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Erika. But now Erika can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. It was Trump being Trump, refusing to follow the script, even at a memorial service for a close ally. Observers described the event as equal parts funeral, political rally, and Christian revival. Calls for forgiveness mixed with calls for retribution. And throughout it all, the cameras kept cutting back to Erika Kirk and JD Vance. 2 people now bound together by tragedy, by political alignment, and by the institutional machinery of the conservative movement. Erika Kirk recalled during the service how Second Lady Usha Vance had comforted her in the days after the assassination. Usha had offered an analogy. Think of it like the final 15 minutes of a turbulent airplane ride. All you can do is focus on getting through to the landing. She told me, You will get through these 15 minutes and the next 15 minutes after that, Erika said. Usha, I don't think you realized it then, but those words were exactly what I needed to hear. It was a humanizing moment, a reminder that beneath the politics and the optics, there were real relationships being forged in the aftermath of real grief. Here's where we are. Charlie Kirk is dead. Erika Kirk is CEO. JD Vance is her most visible political ally. They've shared the stage at a memorial attended by nearly 100,000 people. But that was just the beginning. October 29th, 2025. University of Mississippi, Oxford, 7 weeks after Charlie's assassination. This was the event that would become the most scrutinized moment in the Erika Kirk-JD Vance relationship, because this was the only campus appearance where they appeared together. The only time Erika stepped back into Charlie's role of engaging directly with students. And Vice President Vance was there to support her. About 10,000 people packed the Sandy and John Black Pavilion. Most were students. The event was part of TPUSA's This Is the Turning Point tour, which had been rebranded after Charlie's death. Erika Kirk took the stage wearing a t-shirt with freedom across the chest, the same style Charlie used to wear. The crowd chanted "Hotty Toddy, Ole Mrs. Rallying Cry." She smiled, but you could see the grief still fresh on her face. "I could just hear Charlie in my heart," she said. "I could just hear him say, 'Go reclaim that territory, babe. Go to the battles that God's love conquers, and that's why I'm here today.'" She called the students the courageous generation and urged them to make him proud. And then she introduced JD Vance, calling him a friend to her and Charlie. Vance took the stage and did something Charlie Kirk was famous for. He led a Q&A session with students. For over an hour, he took questions on immigration, foreign policy, faith in the public square, the use of the National Guard in Democrat-led cities. He was methodical, patient. He even helped nervous students feel comfortable stepping up to the microphone. At one point, he echoed Charlie's often repeated advice: fall in love, get married, start a family. He connected family structure to national prosperity. He defended Christian values as foundational to America. And he said, "My job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States." The crowd of 10,000 cheered. But it was a moment before Erika took the stage that went viral and sparked the most speculation. Behind-the-scenes footage showed Erika visibly emotional, telling her assistant, "I can't do this. I don't want to do it." Then she walked on stage and embraced JD Vance in a tight hug. A lip reader later analyzed the footage. According to their report, Vance told Erika, "I'm proud of you." When they pulled apart, Erika reportedly replied, "It's not going to bring him back." That 6-second exchange was dissected across social media. People speculated, they projected, they invented narratives. But here's what actually happened. A widow struggling with the decision to step into her late husband's role received support from a political ally who had publicly committed to honoring Charlie's legacy. That's it. That's what the documented evidence shows. Across campus that same night, the Young Democrats of Ole Miss hosted a counter-event. They called it the Mississippi Rise Up Town Hall. It featured Democratic elected officials like California Congressman Ro Khanna and Tennessee State Representative Gloria Johnson. The event included drag bingo. Roughly 100 people attended. The contrast was stark. Turning Point drew 10,000. The counter-event drew 100. Critics of TPUSA called the event a blatant attempt to provide academic legitimacy to hatred and suppression of free speech. Supporters saw it as proof that the movement Charlie built was stronger than ever. And at the center of it all was Erika Kirk, navigating her grief in front of thousands, with the Vice President of the United States standing beside her. So far, we've documented the public relationship between Erika Kirk and JD Vance. Shared stages, memorial speeches, campus appearances, mutual support. But there's a question we need to address head-on. Because if you've spent any time on social media, you've seen the rumors. Let's be very clear about what this chapter is and why it matters. There is no verified evidence of a romantic or sexual relationship between Erika Kirk and JD Vance. None. No credible reporting, no named sources, no documentation. What exists is speculation, innuendo, anonymous social media posts, blind items, the kind of content that thrives in the absence of real information and the presence of intense public interest. Why does this happen? Because the documented facts are dramatic enough to invite projection. A widow in her mid-30s, a vice president in his early 40s, a martyred husband who was their mutual friend, public displays of support, emotional moments caught on camera. It's the kind of story that people want to fill in the blanks on, and in the age of social media, those blanks get filled with speculation whether there's evidence or not. But here's why it matters that we draw the line between rumor and reality. First, it's a matter of basic ethics. Erika Kirk is a real person navigating real grief. She has 2 young children. Speculating about her private life without evidence isn't just irresponsible, it's cruel. Second, it obscures the actual story. The real story is about political power, about how a movement responds to the assassination of its leader, about how a widow steps into institutional control, about how a sitting vice president aligns himself with that succession. Those are important, documentable dynamics that affect American politics. When we focus on unverified romantic speculation, we miss the substantive questions about influence, institutional continuity, and the future of conservative youth mobilization. Third, it sets a precedent. If we're willing to speculate about Erika Kirk and JD Vance without evidence, we're signaling that anyone in public life is fair game for baseless rumors. That's not journalism. That's gossip. So what do we actually know about their relationship? We know JD Vance was a close personal friend of Charlie Kirk. We know he credits Charlie with helping him secure the VP slot. We know he accompanied Charlie's casket on Air Force Two. We know he spoke at the memorial. We know he guest-hosted Charlie's show. We know he appeared at Ole Miss with Erika. We know Erika Kirk is now CEO of a major conservative organization. We know JD Vance, as vice president, has a vested interest in maintaining Turning Point USA as a mobilization tool for the Trump administration's agenda. We know their public alliance serves both of their interests. Erika gets institutional credibility and access to the highest levels of power. Vance gets a loyal ally running one of the most effective youth organizing machines on the right. That's the relationship. Political, professional, public, mutually beneficial. Is there more happening privately? Maybe. But until there's evidence, it's not a story. It's speculation. And this channel doesn't traffic in speculation. If you've made it this far, you're seeing why this story is complex, why it requires nuance, why it matters to separate fact from rumor. If you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about which aspect of this story you want to see more channels cover honestly. Because here's the truth. Most people will see a headline about Erika Kirk and JD Vance and form an opinion based on that headline alone. You're watching a 35-minute deep dive that makes you different. That makes you someone who actually wants to understand power, not just consume gossip about it. All right. Let's talk about the machine. The networks of influence that make this alliance between a CEO and a vice president so potent. Turning Point USA isn't just a youth organization. It's a multi-million-dollar operation with 450 staff members, 3,500 campus chapters, and relationships with major donors, media figures, and GOP operatives. As of 2025, the organization's leadership includes Erika Kirk as CEO and chair, Tyler Bowyer as Chief Operating Officer, Justin Olson as Chief Financial Officer, Marina Menas as Chief Marketing Officer. The organization's reach is staggering. College chapters, high school chapters. The Charlie Kirk Show, which regularly topped podcast charts even before his death. and has continued under guest hosts including JD Vance America Fest, an annual conference that draws tens of thousands of attendees, the American Comeback Tour, campus events that pack arenas, and it's all funded by a network of conservative mega donors who see TPUSA as a crucial investment in the future of the Republican Party. Here's how the ecosystem works. Turning Point identifies and trains young conservative activists on campuses. Those activists become the ground game for Republican candidates. They register voters. They host events. They counter progressive campus activism. In 2024, TPUSA was credited with helping mobilize young voters for Donald Trump's election victory. Charlie Kirk's podcast and campus tours were seen as instrumental in shifting young men, in particular, toward the MAGA movement. After Charlie's assassination and Erika's succession, that machinery didn't stop. If anything, it accelerated. Within weeks of becoming CEO, Erika announced partnerships with the governors of Florida and Virginia to expand Club America chapters in high schools. These aren't just college students anymore. They're reaching teenagers. JD Vance, as vice president, represents the Trump administration. That administration relies on organizations like Turning Point to maintain its base, especially among younger voters who are typically harder to mobilize for Republicans. Vance's public support of Erika Kirk isn't just personal, it's institutional. By appearing at her events, by praising her leadership, by hosting Charlie's show, Vance is signaling to the conservative ecosystem, Turning Point is still a priority, Erika Kirk is still someone worth investing in. And for Erika, having the vice president's public backing solidifies her position. It tells donors, keep funding us. It tells staff, this succession is real. It tells critics, we're not going anywhere. This is how political power actually works, not through backroom deals alone, through public alliances, through institutional endorsements, through the machinery of media, money, and mobilization. So when we talk about the relationship between Erika Kirk and JD Vance, this is what we're really talking about. Two people whose political interests align, whose institutional positions reinforce each other, who benefit from being publicly associated. It's not romantic, it's strategic, and it's working. Here's a question. What narrative do you believe about Erika Kirk? Because depending on where you get your news, you're hearing wildly different stories. If you watch left-leaning outlets, you're hearing concerns about Christian nationalism, about MAGA radicalization of young people, about a widow being used as a symbol by a movement that has no problem exploiting grief for political gain. You're hearing skepticism about her qualifications to run a major organization, questions about whether she's a true leader or just a figurehead installed because of her symbolic value. You're hearing worries that Turning Point USA, under her leadership, will double down on the most divisive elements of conservative politics. Attacks on LGBTQ rights, promotion of Christian nationalism, hostility to immigrants and minorities. If you watch right-leaning outlets, you're hearing celebration. Erika Kirk as the embodiment of traditional female leadership, a woman who preaches biblical womanhood and submission, but also runs a national organization, proof that conservative women can be powerful without abandoning their values. You're hearing about the surge in chapter requests, the tens of thousands of young people inspired by her resolve, the way she's turned tragedy into mobilization. You're hearing that she's the next great conservative leader, that she'll shape the 2028 GOP primaries, that she represents the future of the movement. If you watch mainstream outlets, you're hearing fascination. How does a former beauty queen become one of the most powerful figures in conservative youth politics in 8 weeks? What does it mean that she's so closely aligned with JD Vance? Is she a player in her own right or a symbol others are using? You're hearing questions about political violence, about the assassination's impact on political discourse, about whether Charlie Kirk's death will deter or embolden extremism on both sides. And here's the thing. All of these narratives contain elements of truth. Erika Kirk is both a grieving widow and a political actor. She's both a symbol and a CEO with real institutional power. She's both preaching traditional values and breaking traditional molds. She's both someone who has earned her position through years of building her own brand and someone who inherited a position because of who she married. The narrative you accept shapes how you see the future. If you believe she's a puppet, you'll underestimate her. If you believe she's a savior, you'll be disappointed when she makes pragmatic political choices. If you believe she's a dangerous ideologue, you'll miss the ways she might moderate or surprise. The smartest take is probably this. She's a 36-year-old woman navigating an impossible situation with more grace than most people could muster, while also making calculated political moves that serve her interests and the interests of the movement she now leads. She's complicated, like most people in power. And that's exactly why this story matters. So far, we've talked about Erika Kirk, the CEO, Erika Kirk, the political ally, Erika Kirk, the symbol. But there's one version of her we need to spend time on, even if briefly, Erika Kirk, the human being. 4 days after Charlie's assassination, Erika had to explain to their 3-year-old daughter why her father wasn't coming home. In her first public speech, she recounted the conversation. "What do you tell a 3-year-old? I said, baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry, he's on a work trip with Jesus so he can afford your blueberry budget." That line got a laugh from the audience, but beneath it is a reality almost too painful to contemplate. 2 children under the age of 4 who will grow up without their father, who will be raised with stories instead of memories, as Melania Trump put it. Erika gave birth to their son in May 2024. Charlie was assassinated in September 2025. Their son was 16 months old. He'll have no memory of his father. In November 2025, 2 months after the assassination, Erika posted on social media about the magnitude of her grief. She wrote, "It's humbling to realize that this magnitude of suffering didn't steal my love for my husband. It amplified it. It crystallized it. I carry my Charlie in every breath, in every ache, and in every quiet act of day-to-day living as I attempt to relearn what that rhythm will be." Vance's airplane analogy wasn't just a nice metaphor. It was survival advice. Focus on the next 15 minutes, then the next. Don't think about the years ahead, just get through the landing. And Erika has been doing exactly that. Taking the stage when she didn't think she could. Leading Zoom calls with 1,500 employees when she wanted to collapse. Making appearances at universities when every moment must remind her of what Charlie used to do. There's also the public scrutiny, the viral videos, the lip readers analyzing her every word, the speculation about her relationships, the conspiracy theories about the assassination. In September, late-night host Jimmy Kimmel made a comment on air that drew widespread outrage. The specifics don't matter here. What matters is that Kimmel was temporarily suspended, and when he returned, his network reached out to Erika about appearing on his show so he could apologize on air. She declined. In an interview with Fox News, she explained, "I told them thank you. We received their note. This is not our issue. It's not our mess. If you want to say I'm sorry to someone who's grieving, go right ahead. But if that's not in your heart, then don't do it. I don't want it." It was a moment of clarity, of boundary setting, of refusing to let her grief become a spectacle for television ratings. Here's the tension at the heart of Erika Kirk's story. She's a public figure. She's the CEO of a major organization. She's a political actor with real power. All of that invites scrutiny and analysis. But she's also a widow, a mother, a woman processing unimaginable trauma while the world watches and judges every move she makes. Both of those things are true at the same time, and the ethical responsibility of anyone covering her story is to hold both truths simultaneously. We can analyze her political choices without psychologizing her inner grief. We can document her institutional power without pretending we know what it's like to lose a spouse to an assassin's bullet. We can critique her organization's politics without denying her humanity. That's the line this video has tried to walk, not always perfectly, but intentionally. Because at the end of the day, before she was a CEO or a symbol or a political ally of the Vice President, Erika Kirk was a wife, and that wife lost her husband in the most violent, public way imaginable. That deserves to be acknowledged, even as we continue to analyze the political implications of what came after. Here's where we are. It's November 2025. Charlie Kirk has been dead for 2 months. Erika Kirk has been CEO for just over 7 weeks. She's appeared on stage with the Vice President. She's overseen a massive surge in chapter requests. She's navigated public grief, media scrutiny, and institutional transition. So what happens next? There are several plausible scenarios, and the key word here is plausible, not certain. Because anyone who tells you they know for sure what Erika Kirk will do in 2028 or beyond is lying. But we can look at the patterns and make educated guesses. Scenario 1. Kingmaker. Erika Kirk remains CEO of Turning Point USA and uses her position to shape the next generation of conservative leaders. She doesn't run for office herself. She's the power behind the scenes. She decides which candidates get TPUSA's endorsement and mobilization machine. She becomes the person every 2028 GOP presidential candidate has to court. This is the most likely scenario in the short term. She's already in this position. She's already seeing how much influence she has. Why risk it by running for office and potentially losing? Scenario 2. Candidate. After a few years consolidating her power at TPUSA, Erika Kirk runs for office herself. Maybe Congress, maybe Senate from Arizona, maybe even governor. She has name recognition. She has donor relationships. She has the infrastructure of Turning Point behind her, and she has a compelling personal story that would translate well to a political campaign. The challenge? She spent years telling women to prioritize family over career. Running for office would be a stark reversal of that message, but politics is full of people who've navigated worse contradictions. Scenario 3. Media mogul. Erika Kirk transitions from CEO to media personality. She takes over Charlie Kirk's podcast permanently. She launches her own media brand. She becomes the next generation's version of a conservative thought leader with her own platform. This leverages her existing skills. She already has a devotional podcast. She's comfortable on camera. She knows how to build a brand. And the conservative media ecosystem is always hungry for new voices, especially women who can speak to traditional values while maintaining a modern presence. Scenario 4. She steps back. After a few years, once Turning Point is stabilized, Erika Kirk decides she's done. She appoints a successor. She focuses on raising her children out of the spotlight. She honors Charlie's legacy by ensuring the organization survives, and then she moves on with her life. This is the least likely scenario given everything we've seen. But it's not impossible. Grief changes people. The weight of public scrutiny can break people. She might decide that the cost of staying in the spotlight isn't worth it. Here's what we do know. Erika Kirk is 36 years old. She has decades ahead of her. The choices she makes in the next 2 to 5 years will shape conservative politics for a generation. If she remains at Turning Point, the organization will likely continue to be a major force in youth mobilization. If she runs for office, she'll bring TPUSA's infrastructure with her. If she builds a media empire, she'll have a platform to influence millions. And through all of it, her relationship with JD Vance and the Trump administration will be a key variable. If Trump wins again in 2028, or if a Trump-aligned candidate wins, Vance will likely remain in a position of significant power. Erika's alliance with him will continue to be valuable. If the GOP shifts in a different direction, Erika will have to decide, does she follow the party establishment, or does she double down on the MAGA wing? Those are the stakes. Those are the questions, and nobody, including Erika Kirk herself, knows the answers yet. We're 35 minutes into this video. We've covered the assassination, the succession, the alliance with JD Vance, the rumors and the realities, the institutional machinery, the competing narratives, the human cost, and the possible futures. So what does all of this teach us? First, it teaches us about the mechanics of power in modern conservatism. power doesn't just flow from voters to elected officials anymore. It flows through media, through youth organizations, through donor networks, through symbolic figures and institutional alliances. Erika Kirk's rise shows how quickly someone can move from the periphery to the center when the right conditions align. Tragedy, institutional preparation, personal resolve, public support from the right allies, media amplification. None of those factors alone would have been enough. Together, they created a perfect storm that launched a widow into the CEO role of one of conservatism's most important organizations. Second, it teaches us about the power of martyrdom. Charlie Kirk's assassination didn't destroy Turning Point USA, it supercharged it. 62,000 chapter requests in the weeks after his death, a memorial attended by over 90,000 people. A movement that sees itself as fighting for a fallen hero's legacy. The right has been exceptionally effective at turning tragedy into mobilization, and whether you see that as inspiring or cynical probably depends on your politics. But it's undeniably effective. Third, it teaches us about the line between public and private. Erika Kirk's story is inherently public. She's chosen to remain in the spotlight. She's accepted the CEO position. She's made herself a political figure. But that doesn't mean every aspect of her life is fair game. The speculation about her relationship with JD Vance shows how quickly the public will fill in narrative gaps with gossip and innuendo. As consumers of media, we have a responsibility to demand better, to ask for evidence, to distinguish between what is documented and what is imagined. Fourth, it teaches us about the future of conservative politics. If Erika Kirk represents the future, what does that future look like? It looks like a movement that's younger, more media savvy, more explicitly Christian, and more willing to embrace traditional gender roles while also putting women in positions of institutional power. It looks like a movement that sees itself as under siege, fighting a culture war where the stakes are existential. It looks like a movement that's highly organized, well-funded, and capable of mobilizing young people in ways that terrify the left and excite the right. And fifth, it teaches us that real people navigate real grief in real time, even when that grief happens on a national stage. Erika Kirk didn't choose for her husband to be assassinated. She didn't choose to become a widow at 36. She didn't choose to raise 2 children alone. But she did choose how to respond. She chose to step into leadership. She chose to continue the tour. She chose to accept the CEO role. You can admire those choices or critique them. You can see her as a hero or a cautionary tale. But you can't deny that she made them under circumstances that would have broken most people. And that's worth acknowledging, whatever your politics. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Is Erika Kirk the next kingmaker on the American right? Or is she a symbolic figure whose power others will wield? Is she shaping the future of conservatism? Or is she being shaped by it? Tell me in the comments which one you think is true. And tell me which one you fear. Because the answer to that question will tell us a lot about where American politics is headed in the next decade. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you. This is the kind of deep, source-grounded analysis that takes time to produce and time to consume. If you found it valuable, subscribe, share it, leave a comment. Help ensure that channels doing this kind of work can survive in an ecosystem that often rewards hot takes over careful research. I'm going to keep covering stories like this. Stories where the truth is more complex than the headlines. Stories where the stakes are real and the answers aren't obvious. Because if we don't do this work, someone else will fill the gap with speculation and gossip. And we all deserve better than that. Thanks for watching.